I think what I've learned over the last 5 years of having someone who's been a person that I've relied on is they can't be everything that I want them to be. And that's my issue, not theirs. And if anybody, if they're watching, it's my apologize for not realizing that you can't create and edit videos and be an SEO specialist and understand Canva.
Sharp strategies, sweet success.
Hello and welcome to Sharp Strategies, Sweet Success. This is your host, Tiffany Swedensky, and today I am talking with Matthew Konecky. Matthew is a personal injury, DUI, and criminal defense attorney in Florida. I met him many years ago through GLM, so we've talked a few times kind of in between over the last few years. He's a great guy and doing a lot of cool stuff at his firm. And so I'm going to turn it over to him to finish out the introduction and just tell you a little bit more about what Matthew Konecky is doing right now.
Hey, Tiffany, thanks so much. I'm a criminal defense DUI attorney in South Florida. I also do personal injury. Personal injury kind of came about as when I first started practicing law, the firm I had worked at in law school. When they hired me after I had interned with them, they said, "Oh, by the way, we do personal injury. Learn it. We don't know what we're doing." So that's always been a part of what I do. But, because you're in marketing, you understand with personal injury to do heavy duty marketing, to keep up with the Morgan and Morgans of the world. And, whoever's listening, I'm sure there's the local gorilla in each market. It's very tough in that aspect. So I've built a really good client base with my criminal and DUI defense, and I internally market to them, and it's had a nice aspect of my practice to be able to maintain personal injury that way.
So how are you internally marketing to your list right now? What are you doing to reach the people who have already worked with you, already contacted you?
Yeah, that's it. It's just actually contacting the list. So every week we have an e-blast, and we've been maintaining that since about 2020. And we've got a list of over 3,000. We have a mailed newsletter that goes out every other month. It used to be every month, but every other month. So they get some information, and it's not just I'm a lawyer and this is the law and I'm boring and I'm, all of that. There's usually a good cover story, and then, we put some stuff that's just interesting to people, and some guides that we have on our website. And then my wife does a recipe. So people actually like that. I had one of my clients tell me that she would save my newsletter and ship it over to her daughter, who lived in Amsterdam when my wife was doing vegan recipes, because her daughter was vegan. So it's something that's actually, people, I don't know how many people enjoy getting it, but certain people did. And I will say that particular client would send me and does still send me cases. So it's a touch that actually has more effect than probably just about anything else.
Yeah, that's the kind of invisible touch of marketing sometimes. They're on your email newsletter list, and we can only see the data that we can see in our CRM. So we don't really know if they're reading or enjoying. And, usually it's only when they do outreach to us that they say, like, "Oh, I love your newsletter," or when they refer us a case. So just another question about your list is, how do you end up deciding who goes on the list? Are you just putting everyone, or are you guys discerning like types of person, types of case, anything like that?
With the email blast, it's anybody who's contacted our office and filled out a form. Our intake is very good at making sure we secure an email address. And even if it's someone who doesn't, ultimately hire us, chances are they may need us again in the future, or, where they thought they didn't need a lawyer, they realize they do. So we make sure that we capture that, and it's not, we don't let that go until they unsubscribe. So that's how we get that. Now with the mailed newsletter, we focus that on previous clients, people who want to opt into that. So through LinkedIn, when I get my mailed newsletter, I actually make a digital copy of it and put it online. And I say, if anybody wants it, contact me. So we'll add people that way. And then some vendors that we use, maybe for the PI, if a doctor's office contacts us, we'll give them that so that we're top of their mind too.
Yeah. So you guys are doing the email newsletter and the print newsletter, both, or are you just doing the email newsletter?
So the emails is like a weekly e-blast, and then a separate newsletter that is completely different. And it's more like what you see, I don't want to compare myself to Bland Marketing, but you might get like your local realtor sends you, here's a 4-page newsletter, but every once in a while you just grab and go, what's in here? And then next thing you're like, I'm reading this, whatever, I like to think that I had more impact than just the cold call realtor who sends out stuff. So they physically get them.
I can sort of hear other attorneys ask me this question just based on what you're talking about. But like, so how do you decide like what content is good for like your criminal contacts, personal injury contacts, or are you even writing to, those specific groups? Are you making content for everyone?
So it's a little of everything, right? So because you can't let them forget that you're a lawyer. That's not the point of doing that. So, but you also there's nothing more boring than, I won a case. It's huge. I get result. That stuff's just annoying. So I try to put my personality into it. The emails are going to be a little bit more targeted so that people see, I try to drive them to my website or my YouTube channel. The newsletter is more just, it's personal. It's because most of those people have hired me already or had more of a deeper connection. And then I just kind of go, push the more personal approach so that they have a better comfort level so that, even if they don't need me again, they can refer and they feel like they do have a connection. The funniest thing with the email newsletters, one of the biggest responses that I ever got from it was we did a cover story about how, it was almost felt taboo, but I like pro wrestling. And it was just my love of pro wrestling. And I was a little kid, and my mom and my grandfather would take me to the matches, and how I love it today. And I'll tell you, I got emails from people coming out of the woodwork. Oh, that was so awesome. I like it too. And you'd be like really surprised. Like, like people might be surprised that I like it, but and no one should be surprised anymore. It is a billion-dollar industry. WWE is signing contracts with ESPN, Netflix. I mean, it is a mega entertainment industry, but there was always that there was that taboo, like, oh, you like that, it's fake. Like, come on.
I mean, it's not. I'm a fan. Like, I remember as a kid, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I just had a bunch of boy cousins, and we play the wrestling video games and stuff like that. So I didn't have a choice. Like, I had to be in that universe when I was younger. Kind of disconnected from it, and then like was with my brother-in-law, and we were just hanging out at his house and trying to figure out what to watch, and it ended up being pro wrestling. It was one of those moments where it was like, do you like this? And it's like, I can sit with this. And we were both like unsure and ended up like watching it for an hour or so and talking about it. And funnily enough, like just this week, I was talking to another attorney who was telling me, oh, I'm a huge fan of pro wrestling. And I'm like, really? And so I think it's one of those like guilty pleasures, I think. And so that's just really fun. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned YouTube, what are you doing for YouTube right now?
So we are answering questions, the ones that people ask us all the time. And I will shoot video, try to get it out as, we try to have a weekly rollout on that. And, where we had a weird kind of pause. I've gone through some marketing people in my office, and finding a rhythm has been difficult. We are now kind of, instead of having one person, we're having several different people have their subspecialties do this stuff, but we're using a service because I had actually recorded. I have 5 videos in the can, but I can't edit it. I'm not gonna optimize it. I can't do that. So we're gonna have someone do that, and then we can upload it and get it going. But we'll still have another month of content there. So, but we always make sure we get it out and get it going. And listen, it's not the biggest thing in the world for me, but I've got a video with 100,000 views. I've got a couple other that are up there. But that was one when I started. I didn't think that it was going to be something that people would call me and retain me from, but it has. So that was kind of a surprise. And I don't want to say it's a free marketing because I'm not paying, but I have to pay someone to edit and I have to take my time. So there's a cost involved.
Yeah, and as somebody who's making content on the regular myself, my team will edit videos for me, and mercifully my edits aren't that complicated, so my team isn't like a full suite video editing team, right? So all the new video editing tools are really, really useful. But some good advice I heard on LinkedIn actually just recently also was that, for content, it's better to shoot for a B plus than an A plus. Because you really don't know what resonates. And just like your example with the email newsletter, you had no idea that would take off. Sometimes you put together a quick video or an article and then people end up loving it, and it's just hard to predict. And so, like, just making content and getting in the habit of making content is just so important. And it's so easy, it's easier in my mind to sit down and record a video, just you talking about something you already know. And, just edit it later. It's easier than writing, at least in my book.
Absolutely. I think I'm so much better at talking to answer a question than it is to think of a script and make sure I hit every single bullet point. That's always been difficult for me. So I don't typically do it. We do have, when I want to do more of a longer form video, I will create something. I do have a teleprompter, but even that, I can't even keep up with it. So as long as I'm seeing the bullet points and I'm hitting it, I definitely feel I put up some B plus material, as you say, a few A's and a few, few sub B's.
Something I was looking at this week, which Google made this change a while back with Google Analytics, but they're now separating organic search from organic video. And so for my firms that are, maybe they're not super advanced with their strategy, we're just making content. Those that are putting out that YouTube content are seeing traffic from YouTube. Like, people are going to YouTube with questions, no doubt. And so it's a great place to, and I brought this up before on my podcast, so I don't know if I have with you before, but the good old 7, 11, and 4 rule, they need to see you like 7 hours of content over 11 touch points on 4 platforms or something like that. And so, like, video is just an easy way to add and create that 11 hours of content or 7 hours, whichever it is. So are you doing the scripting yourself, or is your agency helping with that? Like, how are you guys generating like the new content?
So, and like I said, we've kind of gone into some changes. The marketer would provide me some scripts, some ideas, but ultimately I know what I want to talk about. So that was where we would go from there. Moving forward, it's really going to be kind of researching what are people asking, deep diving into the sub questions from that. And then I'm going to go back and probably, I don't know if you can hear the sirens.
I just hear you.
Okay,
Zoom's
good.
pretty good about filtering out background audio. I have a washer going on the other side of this wall, and I'm pretty sure you haven't heard that, have you?
No, we're a block and a half from the police and fire station. So on a regular given day, when I'm talking to people and they're like, "What are you, an ambulance chaser?" And I'm like, "No, literally, they're right here." So anyway, so researching the sub points I think are going to be the new way to prepare to deliver the content. And I think AI questions, just going, find what's the most, what's the most asked question about this topic. And then from there, ask what are things other people are asking, and then I can develop it. So that's really what it's going to be. I think it'll be easier to go that way than have somebody who's not as familiar with the law or familiar with what I do, than try to create something to meet an algorithm.
So, have you guys done anything else with your video? Are you looking at like social media video, or have you even like started there yet?
Yeah, so we definitely, and I think that was kind of the missing link over the last few years, is while we've been doing a lot of great stuff with YouTube, not really pushing it through our social media channels as much. But over the last month and a half, if anybody's seen me on LinkedIn or our social media pages, I've been trying to at least push the content. I started doing shorts again, because those are really simple. That I can do without sending it to an editor. And again, maybe it's just B+ content, but if you get somebody to look at it, that's all that really matters. But yeah, that we're now having a more consistent flow with that.
Yeah, shorts are interesting, and I've seen this with law firms, and I've seen this with my own content, but admittedly, I haven't paid much attention to it. Shorts, YouTube shorts, mostly been YouTube videos or something else. And then I'll go back in our account and look at like which shorts are getting good views, and looking at it for the first time in 6 months and realizing like, wow, some of these have done really well. They're getting engagement, they're getting views. Clearly people like them. And a lot of it are just like shorter clips from the longer YouTube videos. So they're relatively easy to make. But yeah, like shorts is, there are a lot of talk in the legal marketing space about YouTube in general, and maybe I just haven't been listening to the right people. Like I feel like shorts are just a part of that network that are underutilized, and it's really interesting. I hope I can dive more into it at some point in the future. Well, I mean, I guess just beyond video, are you guys making any new marketing investments this year, or looking at kind of branching off and trying something new, or are you just like maintaining what you guys are working on?
So I think the biggest thing that's happened in this year is with marketing is kind of withdrawing from having a central person in the office to do our marketing, and then kind of farming out the subspecialties. I think what I've learned over the last 5 years of having someone who's been a person that I've relied on, is they can't be everything that I want them to be. And that's my issue, not theirs. And if they're watching, it's my apologize for not realizing that you can't create and edit videos and be an SEO specialist and understand Canva and create ultimate works of art that we can repurpose. As much as I would like somebody to be a jack of all trades, and a master of it all, they can't. So I think kind of sub those specialties out, but having the idea that they're all working together. And I think that's the biggest thing, is getting all of those things to work together. So that's where we're going with on that. We've had some, I'm sure every bar association has their own challenges, but Florida is notorious for their advertising. Unless you're going to do some outrageous billboard, I can't understand why. You can, as you drive, you see the craziest stuff now, and it used to never be that way. And I know there's reasonings, First Amendment reasonings for it, but then when you want to simply do a Facebook ad, or you want to do a direct mailer, which is completely allowed and has been done since I've been practicing a lot, it's amazing what you can and can't put on a mailer. For instance, I had real Google reviews from real clients, and I wanted to send to represent my quality of work to someone who may have just been arrested. And the Florida bar said, because this person says I'm the best lawyer, or you'll get a great result, since it couldn't be verifiable, they won't allow me to use those types of reviews in an ad. Luckily, they'll allow me to put in the ones that say Matt's team is great, and good communication, which is probably more important than the result aspect of it. But I have to go back and forth for months trying to hone down on that, and it makes getting out when the idea comes and I'm ready to roll with it. It's still 3 or 4 month process, and I don't want to say I lose interest, but I definitely lose steam in getting and rolling it out. So um, I do think that we are going to probably do another direct mail campaign that will be very targeted. I've been doing them on and off for 20 years, and they're not as successful. When we first started doing them, there was no such thing as SEO. So that was a good way to do it. But, but it does have a market, and it does have a place for it.
As a marketer, a legal marketer, and not a lawyer, I guess I don't always feel like I have a place in or a say in how I feel about various bar rules for marketing. It feels like you guys kind of made those rules for yourselves. But, as an outside person looking in, like, it's confusing to me. Like, one, you'd think it would be really clear cut, some of the rules, but they're really rather ambiguous. And you see people getting away with things. You're like, wait, I thought we weren't allowed to do that. And we're not allowed to do that. It's just so ambiguous that sometimes you just get away with it until somebody tells you to stop, like a particular advertising practice, But you zoom out, not just looking at lawyers, but look at all these different industries. Like, there's so little regulation on what you can say, like just say as an ad agency, an ad agency can create an ad and make up results for themselves. And there's no ethics rules or guidelines or things preventing that. Yet with lawyers, there's a ton, and there's a ton that you just have to be aware of, and all these nuances. And it's challenging. And sometimes and I feel like other lawyers would disagree. It just feels like unnecessarily restrictive. Some things I would agree with, but some things are like, I don't know, like not being able to focus on results or something, or having to go through a process to get like a print mailer. It just seems kind of silly to me sometimes, honestly. But I definitely feel you.
To your point, I agree with you. It's very ambiguous of what the rules are. I like to play by the rules just because I value my license, and I know it's never going to be a potential client goes, oh, I was misled by that ad. It's going to be a competitor who's pissed off. And that's what it is. And a lot of people just do it until they get called out on it and face the consequences later. I'm not going to play like that. But, to your remark, advertising isn't really regulated other than like the FDA and and lawyers. Everybody wants to use alternative facts as the basis of their marketing. So but we can't.
Yeah. I mean, and then when you think about like drug companies and FDA, you mentioned the FDA, and it's like that's one where I'm happy there's
Yes.
regulations. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the marketers
Yes.
and not having a marketer in house. And I mean, I definitely still feel like there's a place for somebody in house who's a generalist, who's managing vendors, who's coordinating, make sure everything gets done and message gets communicated to you, to the vendors. But, I talk to more and more law firms that are doing what you're doing, which is outsourcing to specialists, which I just think is smart. I really wouldn't advise any law firm to bring SEO, PPC, or anything that requires like heavy specialty like video editing or creatives in house, because it's a profession. It's a profession in its own right. Video editors are good video editors, and good copywriters are good copywriters. And I was talking with somebody about this the other day. You would think that AI would have made more people able to do these specialist things, but really what it did is gave all the specialists the same tools. So now they're just able to produce at a higher level, and everyone's still learning what they learn. So I think what you did is ultimately smart. You really have to lean on the people who know their trade, because in the industry we're in, it's just ridiculously competitive. Like, you're not going to do much with DIY marketing up against, Morgan and Morgan or whoever the big law firm is in your region. And so you almost have to. And so, there's still a place for an in-house marketer but there are certainly so many times where it just doesn't work out because, maybe the marketer didn't have a good picture of what they would be doing and wanted to be the specialist themselves. And, it's just not a match. So,
Absolutely. And I think that's, like you said, managing the vendors, but also getting the vision of what the firm is. So there will be a time where that happens and they'll be more of a marketing manager than just a straight up marketer and doing all the tasks. So
yeah. But marketing is fun. So you kind of end up wanting to do all the tasks and it just ends up being a double-edged sword.
well, that I will say that's the one thing since our last one left. It's forced me to get my hands dirty again. When I first kind of started the journey, around the time I met you, I was kind of like, Wizard of Oz, black and white to color, like, oh my God, I could do all these things. And I had fun. You helped me create some of my not brochures, but my legal guides, the covers and stuff like that. Cause I knew that was out of my wheelhouse, but everything else I did. And I loved that part of it. I have a business background, like my bachelor's of science is in business management. So there was always this part of me and that I've loved being an entrepreneur and being in business, aside from being a lawyer, that the marketing, having fun with. And now, again, like having to get my hands dirty and seeing, really kind of where AI is going to be able to take us. I've created some stuff that will be released, in the next month or so that I'm kind of proud of. Like, oh, wow, I took that and animated that, and now we've created a video on this, and hopefully that will attract attention. But at the meantime, I had fun doing it. Now I have to get back to, my bread and butter, but it's interesting.
And it as a marketer who's also a business owner, it is really fun to learn something new. But you have to discern between what's valuable for you to do and what's valuable for you to hand off to somebody else. And it's worth learning. It's worth learning the things that you don't know. If there's an aspect of your business that you're unsure about, like I just feel like the easiest way to reduce your anxiety about it is to try to learn a little bit about it. Try to learn how it works and how Facebook ads work or how taxes work, whatever it is you're unsure about. And then to understand these things and to gain that confidence in it. But like at the end of the day, like I don't want to handle that. Like I know about it now, but that's a day-to-day job that I don't want to do. And there's probably something on the horizon that's more interesting for you to learn. Like go learn something else and let somebody else handle the thing that you already set up for them or you already found out and learned about. So I get it, and it's fun to do the marketing. Like even for me, I'm a marketer. That's why I do it. It's really fun to do the marketing, but sometimes you have to take a step back and it's like, this is a lot of fun, but I have to, there's something more important that I have to focus my attention on. And that's hard. That's really hard. I sympathize.
To your point, though, learning about it also makes me feel more prepared when I do talk to interview vendors. And that's one of the things I think was very eye-opening, kind of as we started going down of who's going to help us with video, who's going to help us with SEO, who's going to help us there. A lot of people, I think, look at lawyers and probably doctors too of, kind of, I'm not putting you in this category, but the salespeople for marketing firms look at it like used car salesmen. They go like this: oh, these guys don't know what they're talking about. They're just going to buy everything. They're an attorney. They'll afford our services. They need our services. We're a doctor. And so having some touch points where you can say that, like, what they're talking about when they're talking about SEO or where they're talking about local service ads, or they're going to talk, someone who wants to sell me on pay-per-click, that's not where I'm going. I'm not going to pay for somebody just doing free research on this and click my site. That's not going to pay off, but local service ads might. Organic SEO. So having that little bit of knowledge is like a superpower, because then you're hopefully not getting sold stuff that you don't need.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of salespeople out there. And I mean, I sell, like you pointed out, I sell marketing services too. So I'm part of this game as well. But I'm kind of a Girl Scout, I will look in the horizon and see like, it's like what you're selling isn't that useful, or, that could be easily brought in-house, or maybe they're just misrepresenting the heck that they're doing selling entirely.
Right.
I mean, it happens. And I mean, more commonly, what I see are, vendors doing their best, but, the level of investment that the law firm is putting into their site and the SEO team is doing just isn't enough. That's usually more common. But you're right. There are like used car salesmen out there who see attorneys as marks and somebody willing to spend money if they can just pitch the right thing.
Well,
And,
if I could share a story, just the other day, I was on LinkedIn and I was looking at this, what I don't know how this stuff pops into my feed, but it was like a younger guy and he was doing like an on the spot interview at a bar with a girl going, who name me one personal injury attorney, and they were in Miami. So, and the woman was intoxicated. What the guy interviewing was just like kind of shouting. It was like guerrilla marketing slash half Borat, half, you know, punked type of thing. And then she didn't understand. And then he explained why you have to have brand awareness. And then I saw something else, and I was kind of confused by what he was trying to convey. And then I looked at another one, and he was now more appropriately dressed, trying to give you that marketing role. And he was saying he went to a certain firm's website, who say they do personal injury or litigation cases, and he's like, we've analyzed your website and you're not ranking where you should be. And the guy was looking at a civil defense firm who gets hired by the big insurance companies. They do personal injury, they defend personal injury, but this is a guy who doesn't know his market. And I was embarrassed for him, but I don't think he would have been embarrassed to be exposed. He just turned it into another selling platform. But it scares me to see that, because that guy's going to get the guy who doesn't know anything about marketing and sell him the yellow brick road.
the example I have, and I still see it, and I'm not going to name the company, although I do have their name in my head. But the ad is like a man walking up to a gal, and it's obviously a college campus. You actually see the name of the college campus behind her, and she's young. She looks to be, I mean, maybe I'm bad guessing, but under 23. Let's just say that, under 23. And he walks up to her and just like, what's hard about lead generation for personal injury firms? And she was like, well, you get leads that aren't good. The intake is long. You can't get a hold of them. I mean, she's listing, honest to goodness, real problems with, law firm intakes. But I'm like, who is this kid who looks no more than 25 himself? Who is she? And what the hell do they know about running a law firm? Because it looks like they're recording an ad on a college campus.
Right.
And like I look at that and I'm just like, I'm sure they're doing something right. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you look at a successful ad campaign that's getting a lot of views and you just have to assume that because they're spending a lot of money on it. Maybe they're getting something in the end. But at the same time, I just like, I feel like it's a little dishonest because you're not talking to real attorneys. You're not talking to real intake teams who are willing to tell you their real problems. You're just trying to sell them on, we'll sell you personal injury leads that are, we'll sell you qualified personal injury leads or something like that. And I hate it. I really do. I hate seeing those ads and I see them all the time. It drives me up a wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I caught a glance at the time. It looks like we're coming up on it. I guess I lost track. So I'll ask my traditional last questions. Was there something that we didn't end up talking about that you wanted to cover today?
I want to flip the tables on you, and give me your blunt assessment of what am I missing? Where do I need to go? What do I need to start looking at next?
I mean, for me, and just based on what you told me, without like looking at what you're doing or your site, the missing piece for most law firms is just nailing or dialing in organic social. Because organic social ties into your SEO performance. Social media has always been like a light SEO signal. And officially this year, Instagram announced that their captions were indexable by Google. And so social media is sending brand signals to Google to tell you if a brand is authoritative, and that's affecting your website presence. And then beyond that, just reaching people on social media, it's a good way to reach a local audience. Creating interesting content, growing your followers, and downstream growing the people on your marketing list. It's just that short form video that a lot of law firms are missing. And if it's not that, it's usually the community marketing piece, which kind of ties hand in hand with the social media part of it. So, I mean, you talked about YouTube. I heard you mention like local service ads. You talked about newsletter, print newsletter. All of those are like fantastic things. It's just like we're all trying to figure out this organic social piece and building up followers and possibly getting referrals from it. And just for my listeners, and maybe for you if you haven't listened to it, but my interview with our podcast with Hunter Garrett a couple episodes back, he talks about his personal Facebook use. For me, like that's just like that was a great episode because he really went into how he leverages his personal profile to gain referrals. And it can seem like small potatoes, I think, if you're thinking really big with your marketing, but also like a ton of really influential business owners leverage their personal Facebook to generate referrals. It's a really smart strategy.
Well,
So I
you'll
guess
hate me
that's,
because I don't do any social media personally.
yeah. It's
So
I I do a lot of social media on LinkedIn, but my
uh-huh.
own personal like Facebook and Instagram are pretty weak. But company wise, so I'm actually with you on that one. It's advice I'm giving you, but it's advice I should also take just to be transparent on that.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Why don't you tell people how they can find you and look you up if they want to contact you?
So on that last note, on my social media, I don't have those off the top of my head. You can find, so my name is Matthew Konecky. You can find me on LinkedIn, Matthew Konecky. I think there's only one other one. You'll see this mug on there. I think Instagram is 561 Law. Our website's 561law.com. And then obviously from there you could branch out and find us. But we are we serve South Florida. Our main office is in Palm Beach Gardens, and we do criminal defense, DUI defense, and personal injury. So God forbid you need me, I'm here.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was a great episode. I loved it. And I guess we'll talk to our listeners next time.
All right, thank you.
Bye.